Today I'm building a sword display for the entry hall of the Mini House. I was thinking I'd have to paint some little cocktail swords to look like real swords, but then I found this really cool set of vintage Spanish appetizer picks. The set came with 6 picks in 2 different designs. I experimented with a few different designs until I came up with this one that works best for the space. I chose 2 swords that have the covered scabbard and 2 with a regular handle. And then I gave them a polish with some Renaissance wax. It just helps clean up any of the oxidation and also gives them a little bit of shine and protects them from future oxidation. Now I have a printout of my design and I'm laying the swords out in the same pattern as the design I created earlier. And it's a little bit fiddly and I take extra care to make sure that all the edges line up and the handles are all facing the proper direction, and just doing a last check to make sure that the distances between the landmarks on each sword are equal all the way around the display. Some of the handles are a little wiggly and they are falling out of alignment, so I'm just going to apply a little bit of super glue to the backs of them to secure the handle in place. This isn't the ideal glue to use for metal, but it's good enough to just hold it in place for this project. And the same thing with this piece, another wiggly handle, and just fixing it in the correct orientation. And here we go, we've got everything laid out. And now I'm just marking the swords right where they intersect with the sword above it so that I know where to place the glue later. The marks that I made will be hidden by the sword that's over the top of it. And now it's time for the gluing. And I'm just moving the top sword to the side till I can see the black mark that I made earlier, and then repositioning the sword over the top of it after I've applied the glue. And I'm using Zip Kicker, which is an accelerant that will set the glue faster so that it should hold immediately. And getting ready to do the next one. As I mentioned before, this kind of glue isn't really the proper glue to use to adhere metal to metal. However, I'm planning on using some wire to secure it later, so it really just needs to temporarily hold in position until the wire comes along and secures everything permanently later. And here's where a little flaw in the design crops up, which is this sword that I'm placing now goes over the top of the other 2 swords, whereas the sword that's parallel to it goes under one sword and then over the other. Fortunately or unfortunately, I break this design so many times when I'm gluing it together. Eventually, in the construction process, I realized this design flaw and I corrected it later, as you'll see. But in this iteration, it's still incorrect. I'm flipping it over and now I'm going to apply some of the glue to the back of the sword display, just reinforcing those joints and using the accelerant again. Be sure if you use this, you have a window open. It is very smelly solvent. Fumes can hang in the air and cause your future glue that you apply to also set more quickly, which is something that you may or may not want. And we've managed to match up with the original design. Of course, it is a flawed design, so later that will change. Now it's time to choose the wire that will secure the joints together. A lot of different choices. I don't really have anything in particular in mind, so I'm just gonna sort of lay each wire that I think might work over the top and see what I think. I was originally thinking something that's this sort of pewtery color would match the actual color of the blades, but later it seemed like this gold really popped a lot more, and the scale of this wire, the gauge of the wire rather, was just about perfect for the job. Handy dandy flush cutters and I'm just gonna cut a length of wire and then wrap it around. And on this first one, I'll kind of determine what the pattern should be for the rest of them. But I think I want the wire to start in the back and wrap twice in each dimension. So 2 times in this direction, and then change to wrap 2 times around the other direction. It's a little bit fiddly with such a long piece of wire, but for this first one, I wanted to make sure that I had an abundant amount of wire so that it would make any design possible, really. And there I've gone around 2 times, and I'm just gonna secure the long end of the wire with the short little end that I started with here in the back. And I'm just gonna grab those ends with my needle nose pliers and spin it around like you spin around the twisty tie on a loaf of bread. And now that it's secured, I'm just gonna trim off the excess wire with the flush cutter. Be careful to leave some of the twists behind, otherwise there will be nothing there to secure it. So I'm just cutting above the twist and just getting every last little bit of that off above the twist. And then I'm using the needle nose pliers to press that little twist down so now it's hidden behind the sword. And I'm pretty happy with that design, so I'm gonna go ahead and replicate that on the back of the other 3 joints. And just a note on those needle nose pliers that I'm using is they're the kind that are completely smooth on the inside of the jaws. They don't have the little teeth for gripping, so they're great for pressing things down like that without leaving a mark. And on this one, I'm leaving a little bit of extra wire on the back. I'm not clipping it off because I'm going to use that to secure it to the wall of the entry hall. And I'm just moving on to the next joints. And as you can see, I'm definitely improving as I go along. And the same thing's going to happen to you. The more that you repeat the process, the better you'll be. And here you can see I have a little gap between the wires has happened. And so I'm just using the needle nose pliers to compress them back into a tidy order. And in fact, when I finish this, I'm gonna go through and do the same to every joint to make sure that they're nice and tight and smooth and even and looking good. Now that I'm done wrapping all the wire, I'm going to go back and secure these joints again from the back side with a little bit of super glue, just to make sure that nothing is wiggling, everything's nice and secure, and this will be a good permanent sword display. And so here's the final design, with the design flaw corrected and ready to install into the house. First, let's have a quick tour of the room it's going into. Entry hall has a grandfather clock, a suit of mouse armor, ancestral paintings, and many more to come. Here is where the hall tree will go. This will be a butterfly display, and in the center of the room will be an octagonal table, and this paper model demonstrates the footprint. And I'm going to go ahead and place the sword display in its final spot. Oh no! Oh no! So to attach the sword display, I poked a hole through the wall with an awl. Remember those wires I left long in the earlier step? Those are actually pushed through that hole in the wall. And then I just used a piece of Scotch utility tape to secure those wires to the outside of the house. Later, when the outside of the house is dressed, those wires will be secured in a more permanent fashion. But for now, they're up there, and they're up there very well. All right, cool cats, if you enjoyed watching this project come together today, please like, comment, or subscribe. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.